And we are live today to continue talking about Star Trek Lower Decks. And we have a full crew on board the Starship Texas. We're just going to wait a few minutes, see if we can get some people watching, and then we'll go ahead and get started. But how's everyone doing today?
Great.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Functioning within acceptable parameters.
I have a cold. I apologize to your audience, your future audience.
I'm sure they're a very forgiving crowd. They'll get over it. But
people have had to come to terms with viruses as of late.
It's true. I forgot to tweet. I'm tweeting now. Tweedledee. That's me.
Good idea. In fact, I should retweet your tweet because I also forgot to tweet.
The link on your earlier tweet is the one I'm going to use. Quote,
I forgot to get a Twitter account, so I'm kind of out of luck.
Twitter. That's how the 11th Doctor says Twitter. Twitter.
I was about to say, that sounds like how a Klingon would say it.
Twitter. Twitter. Today is a good day to Twitter.
Nice.
Alexandra is here. Yay!
Yes, we already have some people watching. So we're just going to go ahead and get the show started. I'm Father.
Right? I'm Starfleet Boy.
This is PJ.
This is Brian.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 114th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek all the time. And tonight we are kicking off the second half of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1. We are discussing Episode 6, Terminal Provocations, or yeah, is that how you say that word?
Yeah.
Provocations.
Provocations, okay.
Provocations.
Written by John Cochran and directed by Bob Suarez.
I heard the stars were bright deep in the heart of Texas, just by the way.
Yeah, there's also the brightest star with Saru and the Kelpians. So a little bit of a franchise connection right there, I suppose. But yeah, we're just each going to give our opening statement, kind of our general thoughts about this episode, and then we'll delve into all the details. I'll just go ahead and go first, then we'll just go around the room, even though we're not all in one room. Our virtual room that we were meeting in. It's a virtual conference room, like on a starship.
Yeah.
But I'll just give my opening statement. The episode, I struggled with parts of it, but I also found myself being more forgiving than I would think because of the things that they were doing right. We have the A story with Fletcher, which was a bit too stupid for me. And then the B story with the character Badgie was almost too weird, but I guess it like barely squeaks in as what I would consider acceptable. But I had a good time with how they were writing the characters, especially like all the Mariner Boimler stuff. And like I said, it made me much more forgiving. And so even though like I kind of didn't like either of these two storylines a ton, And what I would have preferred, excuse me, what I would have preferred is if, sorry, excuse me. What I would have preferred is if either of these storylines had been paired with like another storyline that I liked more, just like the double whammy of the two of them together. It kind of fell flat, but I can't help but feel like they've really fine-tuned how to write the characters. Like things are toned down a little bit. Mariner's not as over the top. The captain is not as big of an asshole. It's all like they figured out like the right parameters for these characters to operate in. So even if we're getting what would typically be kind of a disappointing story or maybe mediocre at the very best, for me, I still found it to be an enjoyable experience because of those character moments that I really enjoyed.
All right.
Starfleet Boy, what about you?
Actually, a lot of what you said kind of resonated with me. And for me personally, just to kind of like say it in a succinct way, is this is my new second favorite. So it's not my new favorite like it's been every week where I've been like, oh, this is my new favorite. This is my new second favorite. So I really loved it a lot. I thought it was really hilarious. I had some of the same qualms with like the dumb parts of it, you know, like, or just the things that like seemed a little too hyperbolized, I guess, you know, for my personal taste. But I think Badgie is like the best thing that came out of the episode, and Mariner and Boimler's kind of like, you know, teamwork effort in this episode that kind of like, you know, in a roundabout way saved the ship again. So I you know, whatever. I liked it a lot.
Well, Alexandra is watching us live, and her her opening statement. She's counting on us to be more entertaining than the episode, so that's where she landed on it. PJ, you're up next. What about you?
This was my favorite episode of the season.
Really?
I liked the absurdity and the stupidity of it. The kind of glorious satanic nature of Badgie, and I really liked the character Fletcher. I thought the character was funny, and I thought the voice acting by Tim Robinson was great. His inflections and all that stuff, I found him very amusing. I found the whole A, C, and B plot coming together at the end and it being completely bonkers and over the top was very entertaining to me. And overall, I just liked Mariner more and I liked Boimler more. I like the fact that they worked together to help this idiot. And I understand that this episode in particular is one that you could never translate into live action and it work in any way. Except for maybe the captain part, the whole thing with her trying to have a great deal of patience with these asshole Drukemani. That seems like something you could translate into live action, but the Badgie stuff and the whole thing with the sentient core, it's so over the top and ridiculous. Like, I understand that might rub
you could
people.
do it live action.
Yeah, it would be like a Naked Gun movie, basically. Like, it would just be so weird and over the top.
It would really, it's true.
But in the animated format, I think they took some risks by, especially some of the violence in the holodeck. But it paid off for me. I found it funny and entertaining. I found it to be the most, just in terms of entertainment value, the most exciting episode yet. So, there you go.
Okay, Brian, will you please give us your opening statement?
Well, the first time I watched it, I was kind of just, I guess that was okay. I mean, I laughed a few times. It felt like what my benchmark for average lower decks is, and about the same reaction I had to the last week's. Entertaining enough. But when I rewatched it, I finally locked on to, okay, they are doing some sort of social commentary, human condition stuff in there. And it is actually kind of an interesting topic they've picked. One could debate the execution, but it is certainly thematically unified and does approach the topic from multiple angles. And it is a topic that is very central and to Star Trek's heart. And it's not just something simple like, oh, racism is bad. That's what the story today, Yeah, I mean, it's true, but we kind of know that one. This one's a little more complicated. So once I realized that, I became a lot more enamored with the episode and a lot more excited about it on the second time through. What you took for refinement and figuring out how the characters are supposed to be written and performed, I took as character development, and that I thought this was all deliberate changes as opposed to, oh, we were screwing up, now let's fix it. So I guess that's perhaps I was more forgiving of them than you in some sense. But I did enjoy the arcage that we have seen to what degree it has been expressed of Boimler and Mariner's relationship. That also was a plus. So I guess I'll get into the nitty gritty as we go along. But
yeah, well, yeah, I think they kind of acknowledge an arc where, in some of the dialogue when they say like, oh, it's nice that we're not at odds, or we're not fighting each other, something like that. So
they tell each other that each of them aren't as annoying as they usually are.
Yeah, I like that it's not just Boimler that annoys Mariner, but obviously she comes off as annoying to him also. But I like that they have enough of a friendship that they can say things like that to each other now. So yeah, that's definitely like the same stuff that resonated with me as the strengths of this episode. But I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with the kind of breakdown of the story, starting with we'll do like the A story stuff, and then we'll go into like the B story with Rutherford and Tendi. We'll save all of that stuff with Badgie for last. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and give the.
I'm just going to get it out of the way. We don't need no stinking Badgie.
Brian is not a fan.
This shot is really cool. This opening shot in the wreckage.
If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere else, we have some of the screenshots of the episode pulled up, and the animation on the show continues to be top notch. I just love like the visuals and the way that they're able to use so much of the pre-existing universe, especially in this episode when they bring in some designs from old Star Trek. I'm gonna give
the Antares.
The what? The Antares class. Yeah. I'm going to give the synopsis of this episode, then I'll kind of expand on it with spoilers. But the lovable but awkward Ensign Fletcher makes work difficult for Mariner and Boimler. Rutherford introduces Tendi to a holodeck training program he created. And just to expand on that, Fletcher turns out to be a stupid jerk, and Rutherford and Tendi almost get killed by the paperclip from Microsoft Office from Windows 98.
Clippy.
And I have some information on that, but I'll wait to share that. But
can we also say that that's perfect, like the warp with the Doppler shift on the stars that are passing by? Like, it's so great that like that detail is there. It's like
to have like a normal warp effect in Star Trek again, and not have like Star Wars hyperdrive tunnel.
Right. But they even got the Doppler shift, which is what impresses me about this show. It's very cool.
What stands out to me, like the episode like opens with like that warp effect that we've seen in the show from the very beginning. But what stands out to me is that when they show stuff like that, or like when they show like a normal Berman era Klingon, or just like these things that we kind of take for granted, like it doesn't stand out. I don't really find it remarkable. I don't notice it. So nothing that I comment on the first time I watch the episode, because it's just like so appropriate that it doesn't even stick out to you. And it's not until like I think about it later where it's like, oh no, they actually just like reversed what we've been getting in Star Trek for like the last 15 years or whatever, and kind of like went back to like what was the more traditional standard back in the day. So, but I think that's the way it should be. Like when those old designs really work, it's noticeable. Like when they go off course and it's not as good, when they are doing it what most people prefer and like kind of like the classic sense, it doesn't really stand out to you, or at least to me, that's how it works.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the show appreciates visual canon and actually respects what came before and doesn't feel the need to retcon or reimagine like something we've already seen.
Even though you would kind of think that like in the animated medium, that's when like they would want to go like the craziest with the designs. But I think the fact that because it is animated and it's already going to look like a big departure, I think that might actually be like a motivation for them to be like, no, we're gonna have to work twice as hard to make it look and feel like the same universe. Yeah. You know, like the animated series, like the animated series from the 70s, that was a really important thing with Gene Roddenberry. Is he wanted this animated series to look and feel like Star Trek, and those Filmation guys did a really good job translating all of those like Enterprise interiors, like the engineering set and the bridge and everything. They rotoscoped all of that off of like the old footage to make sure that it felt like that show. It felt like Star Trek. It felt like the Enterprise. So there's a bit of that going on here too. It makes me wonder what Star Trek Prodigy. We don't know much about that show, but the upcoming Star Trek animated show, which I think might be the most different. It makes me curious about like what are they going to do, and are they going to try to be like more creative with their designs, or if they're going to try to like really stick close to the traditional looks that we have already had in Star Trek and those types of like familiarity.
Have they made any statement about when that is set?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Because obviously that's probably going to be a huge part of design, picking the look. Is it an area we've seen before? So,
what do y'all think about this opening of the episode where they're making
it was very funny.
The warp noises?
I guess I made computer beep noises as a kid, and still occasionally. I've got an acoudigraphic light switch, and I can't help but make a little beep noise every time I flip the switch because it's got acoudigrams all the way around the light switch, and phaser noises and stuff like that. I don't know if I ever did ship rumble much. That was a new one, but I
could ship rumble all the time.
Do it.
Give
me some ambience. Give me some ship
I would pretend that I could tell. I would pretend that I could tell that by the deck plating that the phase variance was off by 0.003.
Oh, wait, there was a ship rumble I loved to do when I was younger. The whale probe from Star Trek 4.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
I'm doing it a little too fast, but yeah, but
PJ,
I love that pulsy noise. That was an amazing sound effect that I would have. All my big spaceships when I was playing with toy spaceships sounded like the whale probe. So,
hold on. I don't know. Does that sound like anything?
Sounds like the Defiant.
It sounded like
7. It sounds like the Defiant at Warp 7 to me.
What's kind of weird that like they cited like Voyager specifically, but then I thought like, oh no, Voyager would be incredibly fucking famous now. But yeah, I thought this was like a little too silly, but then I did crack up and laugh when Commander Ransom walked by. I was like, what the hell? And then he pulled out the phaser. It was like something seriously wrong. Is because like in Star Trek, people get possessed, people get impersonated by shapeshifters. Something like this probably would be like really scary to you. Like I think they're like possessed by Pa wraiths, and they're doing a ritual to resurrect God. Who knows what the hell is going on?
That's good.
I laughed when he tackled Boimler. Poor Boimler. But they took the time to kind of introduce Fletcher here, and we get to see him hanging out with the crew a little bit before we get into the.
I didn't think Fletcher would be a one-hit wonder. I was thinking he'd be a reoccurring character.
Well, I started off really liking him, and then I ended up really hating him. So I'm okay with him being a one-hit wonder.
The show totally guides you into doing it, though. It, like really like.
But what I did like was the aliens that they run into trying to recover this junk, this debris of like an old, I assume a cargo ship, based on what we recognize in the debris, and they run into a Trek veteran actor,
J.G. Hertzler.
Yes, who is best known for his work in Deep Space Nine, but has been in multiple Star Trek shows. I'll go over that a little bit at the end of the podcast when we discuss the Gorn eggs. But Now, what do y'all think about this antagonist in the conflict between his scavenger ship and the Cerritos?
They're a new species. Yes, we have not seen the Drukemani before.
Yeah, they remind me of the White Walkers from Game of Thrones, like if they had gone out into space or something and became like.
I mean, what were the garbage collectors from garbage scavengers or whatever in Voyager?
The Malon.
Malon, yeah. I mean, obviously that was my first thought, was they remind me of that, and I can see why they can't do the Malon because they're off in the Delta Quadrant, so they have to make up a new species. But
what are they called again, Father?
Pardon?
What are they called again?
The Drukemani.
Drukemani.
Yeah, and I like their designs. Like they look tough, but like they're junk men basically. They're junk traders. So they like their ship didn't have any weapons. They get in the tractor fight later. But
are they salvagers? Is it more like people who salvage wreckers? I guess they're called. They're more like wreckers, I guess, is what they are. It's interesting.
And the Drukemani captain has kind of a point. I mean, it's been there for over 100 years. Why it's been there for over 100 years, we don't know, but he has a point.
Yeah, it's like, come on now, you ain't messed with this shit. It's been floating here for 100 years. You can just let us have it.
And it's so old,
you're probably
too.
only over here because you saw us going to get it.
Yeah, it does seem like they should at least be a discussion of like who exactly found it first. How did
well, the Drukemani found it, but Starfleet's there to claim it now, and the Drukemani are like, "Oh no."
Maybe it's like it's still within Federation space. So that's the thing here. Is like, are we in like international waters, or are we in like Federation territory?
What is international?
I would assume if it was I would assume if it was Federation space, they would have found it in less than 100 years, unless this area just got annexed by the Federation just recently.
If each solar system was a grain of sand, Brian, which I know that you know this because you are a huge science nerd, but if a solar system was a grain of sand, each one would be like a mile away. Like there's a lot of empty space in space.
Well, yes, but let's say the ship destroys itself, even if it successfully ejects its antimatter pods, the magnetic field is going to break down within a year, and then that antimatter is going to combust with the outer casing, creating a massive gamma ray burst. And yes, that burst will travel at the speed of light, but that means it will travel 100 light years in 100 years. So somebody would have noticed that gamma ray burst and said, "Didn't we lose a ship over there decades ago?" So it does seem, if it's in Federation space, why haven't they spotted it before now? Seems odd. Now, I mean, there could be explanations. Somebody stole the antimatter, whatever, but it does seem a little odd.
Yeah, it is odd, but I do like the conflict that comes out of it, and how Shax we get like the security log from Shax, and he really, really, really wants to blow these dudes up.
Yeah, which I don't know. To me, it strikes me a bit as he's not as honorable as some Klingons, because I don't know if Worf would really find this a worthy adversary that was worth his time, whereas this guy clearly feels these guys are worth his time, despite their ship not having weapons, which kind of makes him
even more trigger happy.
Yeah, he feels more trigger happy than Worf, and a bit more of a bully if you line him up to like the orthodox Klingon honor, which admittedly very few Klingons actually live up to that code.
Yeah. Worf is actually a pretty high standard of honor to hold people up to. But what I'd like to know Shax's backstory. Like, given his age, I think we can assume he was probably part of like the Bajoran resistance. So he probably used to have like this outlet of like, oh, I can just like blow up these fascist overlord Cardassians. And then like after the occupation ended, he was probably like, we found Kira having to like adjust to like not civilian life, but like post like resistance life. And he when Shax went through that, he's probably like, oh, I don't have like people to like blow up all the time, and I have to be like a little bit more restrained now. But I like that the way that they edit this, where they basically establish like, okay, this is going to be like a diplomatic mission because we don't want to start a war with these people. And Captain Freeman says, "Oh, our crew is up to the challenge." And then we cut to this jackass, Ensign Fletcher, chugging pureed cantaloupe out of a replicator.
It's
the
cool that
weirdest thing that you could chug, I guess.
it's cool that this scene answers the question of how it pours down from the top. Like there's no dispenser, it's just choosing to materialize slightly above your mouth, which is interesting. Like
I have to admit, I think the real macho-ness here is not eating lots of pureed cantaloupe. It's sticking your head into an active transporter imaging chamber, and where you could end up with cantaloupe embedded in your brain if it doesn't go right. That's the real macho thing there.
Is Fletcher like that guy who, when the first time we meet the traveler, what was his name? Was it Krasinski or something like that? Like he's just like,
Oh yeah, it
he
wasn't
actually
him.
doesn't
It never
know.
was. It was his assistant.
Yeah.
Jonathan Frakes had a hard time getting that line out, so they had to like 100 takes of that.
That's hilarious.
We have Ensign Mariner accidentally bump into Dr. Tiana when she's trying to enjoy her nachos, and then we get like this pissed off, angry cat doctor. And
This was very funny.
Mariner actually calls her a cat, which has got to be a racial slur in the context of the 24th century. I mean, maybe it's a minor one, but it's got to be one, which I thought, whoa. And not only is that a superior officer, but that's got to be some sort of racial slur right there. That's some heavy stuff. I totally see why the doctor gets upset and wants to know why the hell she isn't on Starbase 80. And that is a question I've had. Yeah, well,
she even called her disrespectful. It was like, really,
yeah, very. And I thought she really deserved that chewing out. And it also, again, raises the question: why is she on this ship, given all the how she upsets a lot of the people around her who are in a position to get her removed from the ship, or at least so
isn't it because like her admiral dad doesn't want her like transfer, like her admiral
clearly the parents are keeping her on the ship, but for what reason? Why do they feel that she's better here than getting properly disciplined somewhere else? Why do they let her get away with this, since they don't seem like those kind of parents? So I hope there's an explanation by the end of the season for that.
There's a degree of nepotism with Mariner, and like she's getting away with a lot more than a normal officer would. And I like how the cat, what's her name? The doctor?
Dr. Tiana.
The cat. There you go. Look at you. The Cation.
I like how Dr. Tiana just calls her out on it. She's like, I've heard about you. You're disrespectful and stuff. And I like how Fletcher comes over and kind of smooths the situation over.
But see, that's where it's weird to me, because like they introduced Fletcher as like the super confident, super cool dude. He can like defuse the situations. Boimler said he's like a natural born peacekeeper. He used to always like do stuff like this back at the academy. He offers her like, oh, here's like a fresh bowl of nachos and a towel to like wipe the cheese out of your fur. I like seeing like him chummy with Boimler and Mariner, and he's like, there's like an underlying goodness to everyone in Starfleet, even you, Boimler, and it's like that, like
I love how he says that.
Chumminess, yeah, but I like it. And then there's like a shift with this character later, and he turns into like a stupid jerk. And
well, see, I thought it was consistent. They say he's a natural peacemaker, but what he actually is a natural bullshitter. He put all his points into charisma and had nothing left for any of his skills on his character sheet, and that's all he's got is charisma. And so he tries to charisma his way out of every single problem. And some problems that works really, really well, and some problems not so well. And he has clearly no ethics attached to his all charisma skill. So
I had a very different interpretation, but let's get into that. Let's talk about like they're working on the isolinear cores. I guess like they just have to like change.
These were cool, by the way. Have we seen anything like that before? Is that like a reference to something?
Nothing exactly like this. Like we've seen them like pull things out of the walls that like you stick these isolinear chips into. But like the cylinder design, it does look more like the Spore Tech on Discovery.
Right. Oh, I like that you call it the Spore Tech. That's
What would you call it?
I was gonna call it a spore containment chamber or something like that, or a spore fuel. But yeah, exactly. It's just Spore Tech. I like that.
The cylinder with a handle crossing across the top, stuck into a wall, is a pretty consistent sci-fi trope that shows up in lots of different sci-fi films and stuff. So.
But yeah, they're worried that they're going to miss the choo-choo dance, which is that a thing? Is that like a real life?
I've never heard of the choo-choo dance until this episode.
But it looks like a conga line. Is basically what it looks like.
I don't think that is the choo-choo dance there. I think whatever it is, and they don't show it on purpose, is some kind of dance that's so cool, like it affects you in such a great, in an emotional way.
What's
And
a real
I
dance
guess
like
not
that?
showing it is leaving it open to
Leaving it open
imagine
to
what it would
interpretation.
I did like, this is the one point where I've thought, Lower Decks on this particular point is more realistic than any other Star Trek. Our world has fads and memes and things that become super popular. The Macarena, whatever. There are these things, and everybody's obsesses about them for a few weeks or a year or two. And we never see fads sweeping through the Federation. I don't think ever in the history of the show. The closest we got is Riker's little orgasm game. And
the death video game. You're right. That's right.
But I can't. And even that was very contrived and plot driven, and seemed to only be on one ship, not spreading throughout.
It wasn't like a natural occurrence. It was it was popularized by artificial nefarious purposes.
Yes.
Right.
Russian trolls promoted it. So, seeing that there are fads, I something I always thought there should be in Star Trek, and that was kind of cool. I don't know how come the choo-choo dance is so exciting, but I do, just the idea that there are fads I appreciated and enjoyed.
So Fletcher continues to seem pretty cool, where he says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll finish everything." The two of you go off to the choo-choo dance, and I like that. Like Boimler is apparently like good enough friends with Mariner at this point. Like he made T-shirts for them, so they have their choo-choo shirts that they see them wearing.
I thought what was more striking is Mariner gets excited about the shirts.
So that's what
Boimler had an idea.
They toned her down.
Yeah, Boimler had an idea, and Mariner thought it was a good one right off the bat. That was a shocker. It was probably the biggest surprise in the whole episode.
I can't wait to get my shirt for this episode. It's badgy, but they should make an alternate that's the choo-choo shirt. I feel like
why they didn't do the choo-choo shirt. They made a shirt for this, and it wasn't what.
I'm Titmouse Entertainment. I'm formally requesting the choo-choo shirt as a special issue.
If every episode gets a shirt, I guess it's just one more big FU to Boimler. No, we're not going to put your shirt out there.
my episode 3 and 4 shirts are on the way, but this is the episode 2 shirt, which is what was the planet called? I can't remember. Telgana 4. So it's like a vacation, and you can see the siren that climbed up that wall.
Send me the link to where those shirts are. I want to take a look at those. So.
Yeah,
very nice.
I wish I got the Ascension one that glows in the dark, but I didn't. I did order the Badgie one.
Nice. I think they're on Titmouse. I'll send you the link for sure. Hold on, let me do it now so I don't forget.
Sorry. While you're doing that, I'm just going to point out that like this is the moment where we get like Mariner and Boimler like being friendly towards each other and kind of like bonding as friends. I know Starfleet Boy, I know like I've heard you mention that like you kind of think that there might be like some romantic sparks between them. I don't see it, and I hope that they keep it platonic, but
yeah.
You're muted, Starfleet Boy. You're muted.
Still muted.
I wasn't muted on the backup, the Audacity audio, so that's gonna sound really weird. I did have some of those inclinations about them, but it's not as strong. Like I don't have I'm not like standing for it or anything like that. Like I kind of agree. I could it's probably not going to be a romantic relationship.
Well, I don't want them to ruin it like they ruined Mulder and Scully in the X-Files. So I'm anti. It's the opposite of shipping. I'm unshipping.
Yeah. That's funny.
Airmail.
You're refunding. You're refunding.
Here was a point I wanted to make that I think we passed. The place where they were talking about the Nausicaans. That was earlier, right?
Yeah, that was in the mess hall.
They make the comment about, there was this fight with the Nausicaans, and then I almost got stabbed, but instead I just had to apologize to them. And I
No,
thought
he said instead
no.
they just spit in my face.
Spit in my face, whatever. He bent over and took a little bit of non-violent, not too violent insult. And I realized that was it. That was the Picard turning point from this is your from It's a Wonderful Life Q episode.
Oh, nice.
From
That
Tapestry.
is, but you can now say that's the point where if things had gone different, Boimler would be this awesome badass guy if things in that one moment had gone a little different for him, and he hadn't gotten spit in the face.
Boimler's the alternate Picard that was the blue shirt.
He's Lieutenant Picard.
Yeah.
Outranked by Worf.
That's his John Bar hinge. That's his moment that if he could go back in time and change it, he could be this cosmic badass instead of this kind of guy who gets picked on by everybody. And I was like, and they just kind of slip that in there, and you got to nerd up to even decode it. But you're like, wow, that's it. They just identified why he's a failure. So I did appreciate that. That was probably my favorite Easter eggy kind of thing, the development of the character.
So I guess where I start to see like a shift in Fletcher's character, and where like the story kind of starts to lose me is when they find him seemingly passed out in the corridor. He says that he was working on the isolinear cores and then was stunned by someone. He didn't see who it was. And Boimler discovers that, oh no, one of the cores is missing, and now like the shield backup won't work. The shields won't be able to regenerate. So what are we going to do? And they decide that they think it must have been Delta Shift. And so like they go to like, I guess like the Delta Shift bunks, and we see kind of like the mirror universe version of like the lower deck characters.
I got that too. I was like, oh, it's this same thing but different. Like all their traits just scrambled in a, you cut up all their character sheets and dumped them in a bowl and then pulled them out and reassembled new characters out of all the traits. I was like, nice.
I thought that was pretty funny, where they have like the alternate Rutherford and the alternate Tendi and the alternate Boimler. Like, they're their own like little short whiny guy and their own like mean lady. But yeah, this is where Fletcher just kind of like goes crazy. So Alexandra
his eyes are even like beady. At first I thought that was out of character. Yeah. But then I thought, no, since we know once you know the whole episode and what he's trying to do, he's basically he's not doing this performance for Delta Shift. He's doing the performance for Alpha Shift. That's who he's bullshitting.
They're Beta Shift.
Or Beta Shift. Sorry.
Beta Shift.
But yeah, Alexandra in the comments checking us out live here, she says that's where my main dissatisfaction with the episode stemmed from. It was such a disconnect between the way Fletcher was set up and what he turned out to be. What I think they might have been doing with Fletcher here by like showing him be like a jerk. He is less ethical. He is kind of a dumbass. And I think it almost feels like it was kind of a reaction to what people were scared Lower Decks would be like. And, they have it like juxtaposed where you could have some Mariner be like, well, I only break the rules when, they're like getting in the way of me doing the right thing, but I would never like hurt anyone. And you're the one who's actually un-Starfleet. And so it almost feels like it's kind of a way to like deflect some of like the criticism that they felt was coming.
I don't see that at all. I just think he was a normal to subnormal, I guess, ensign. And then he did what he did, and he got a little bit of brain damage, and now he's being very defensive now, and that's where the germ comes out.
That's the other thing I was thinking.
This is the part of the episode where I really start to get a kick out of his character. I knew he was full of crap when he woke up and he told that story, because even the way the voice actor Tim Robinson plays him and his inflections, like just go back and listen to the way he talks. He's so full of crap.
So your take is that he has suffered brain damage, and that rather than get him the treatment they need, they foist him off on another ship and never gets his treatment. That's much darker than my take.
Yeah,
okay.
Dark. I want to say that to me looked like Captain Kirk in those previous scenes, but like Star Trek 2 Captain Kirk with the curly hair is really funny.
At the end, the main crew isn't looking at him like he has brain damage at all. He's looked at as the hero, which is also I think kind of funny. But I think he's just the type of guy who just kind of skimmed by in Starfleet, and his charisma got him by for so long. And now this whole situation that he's put himself in, now he's like true colors are shining through. So I don't think it's a huge
Right, the stress
disconnect.
broke him.
Yeah, like now it's like you ever meet somebody who seems like a cool person, then you see them under a certain degree of stress and they get really angry and pissed
He's
off.
a Karen.
Like,
He's a
whoa.
space Karen.
He's a space Karen, yeah.
He's
That's the perfect term.
he's like
There
space
you
Karen,
go.
totally.
When he's
I get it now. I never thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
The animation cracked me up when like they made him like go kind of like crazy in his like aggressiveness to them. And PJ, what is it that he threatens them with when he says Mariner is gonna bleep your bleep off?
There's always
Well,
great.
I thought it was bite your D off, but it looks like the first word he says is an F sounding word, because he goes F. You can see but I don't know. I can't figure it out. And this is part of the problem with the bleeps. I don't mind them to cover up like the F word, stuff like that. But when they're actually covering over entire jokes, then I don't get the joke because it's bleep.
I think that is the joke.
No,
I think that's
funny
the
to me, though.
joke.
I mean, I don't I understand the language is probably too harsh for like PG-14 or whatever it is, Canada here. I think
I'd love to see the scripts. I hope
14.
they release the uncensored scripts. Hello, Question of Trek is here.
No
oh my
Question of
goodness.
Trek watching us live. But so it turns out like the Delta Shift people couldn't have been the ones who stole the core because they were there at the choo-choo dance.
The choo-choo dance, it's true.
And he mentioned like the alternate Boimler. He mentions when they split off into like the third chew and made it a choo-choo-choo dance. I cried and I saw you cry, so they know that he was there. But whenever they say like it's split up in like the third chew, and then like I always like punch, they're like the choo-choo-choo dance. They always do like the same like little like physical animation. It's weird, like every character does that whenever because this is like the choo-choo thing. This is what the choo-chooers do. You know, I'm not in on that click. I don't get it. I don't know.
Somebody needs to do at a convention a big stage performance of the choo-choo dance.
Look how cool it's that era nacelle, the TOS era nacelle there.
Yeah, so right now we're looking at some of the debris field and the tractor beam combat, which I thought was neat. These scavengers, they don't have weapons, but so they use these creative techniques to fight people off or intimidate them. It's kind of ballsy to go after a Federation ship, but they start using their tractor beams to throw junk at it. And
I like how Freeman gets mad and then it cuts to the captain just laughing at her.
but she doesn't like go too crazy with like being an asshole back to them. Like Captain Freeman's been too big of a jerk in the past sometimes, I feel like. But so that's why I'm saying, like, I think they've reined some of that stuff in at this point. The animation was cool on how the design of that ship. I really liked it, how it could separate the kind of like the front control section from, I guess, their cargo space and gain some mobility and continue to assault the Cerritos. And they're having problems with their shields because of the isolinear core being removed, and Shax really, really, really wants to shoot them, but Captain Freeman won't let him, and she's like, "No, I got to resolve this diplomatically." And she opens up channels to the captain of the scavenger ship, and I like that he just says "fuck you." And hangs up on her. I don't know why that made me laugh.
That was really good. That was funny.
Yeah, no, there was it was a entertaining little sequence there. I did like the throwing things at the ship with the tractor beam. That was something I don't know we'd seen that before. Probably because it would be too expensive for most of the history of Star Trek to do on a TV show.
Yeah. And I like here that they give Boimler a moment to shine when Fletcher, he changes his story. We, of course, know spoilers. He's full of shit. But he says, why don't we get our tricorders and scan, because we can't. You're telling me that these aliens stole the core, but like I can't just like go to the captain and tell her that. So we need to do our due diligence here. And then Boimler is the one who like discovers that the core is in Fletcher's bunk.
It's so stupid. It's just on his bed, covered with a little towel. And it's come on.
We got a confession from him, which PJ's theory is like this is what caused him brain damage and turned him into the stupid ass.
Oh man, I love how he explains the story. I like how he says, when you guys were at the choo-choo dance, and like he's talking like a little kid, like he's putting on this like innocent boy act that's so phony.
Again, see, I saw this as more bullshitting. I saw this as he's not actually scared. He's just figures that the best way to appeal to these people is to act scared.
This is his
because he changes the tone right after they agree to help him, right?
This is like what like when you overuse a skill. So he overuses charisma, right? Like you were saying. And so this is exactly what can happen when you like overuse one skill. You have no other skills to rely on. So
like no worst, hide. He doesn't know how to hide the core. He has no points in hide.
I wouldn't even believe the story because like how much brain power was required to like change out those isolinear chips. He said that it would go faster if he was smarter. I don't know what all you have to do besides like take the old ones out, put the new ones in. I guess there's some more to it than that, but his idea was hook up his brain and try to become smart.
Well, again, he didn't put any points in anything else, but and he's probably always been able to talk other people into doing stuff for him. He's probably always been able to do that. And the fact that he wants to avoid the choo-choo dance might actually be because he's got some other social problem that he's engineering by making sure he's not there and not seen by somebody else. And that you could easily imagine a person like this, that there's some other game he's playing that we don't even hear about. And so, I think he just didn't realize, oh, now I'm stuck here by myself, and a guy with a high charisma with no one to talk to is powerless, and I don't know what to do. And well, maybe I could just cheat and get all the knowledge that way. So,
well, instead he ended up breaking the core, putting the ship in danger. But Mariner and Boimler, they actually like they're willing to forgive him. They're like, okay, we can just reformat this bad boy, pop it back in, no harm, no foul. And she starts giving the speech. And when I saw this, I knew something funny was going to happen because she's like never like this serious and sincere. She's giving the speech about like, we are Starfleet. And then all of a sudden this core turns into a monster that tries to that's grabbing other pieces of technology to like add to itself.
Yes.
And it has an extreme version of Fletcher's personality.
We don't know, but this thing's going to go back in time and become the.
Oh, look, there's eyes and a mouth. That's cool. I never noticed that before. Well, it only came out like yesterday, right? So
it has like these ribbons. They look like VGA
right
on a computer. The old,
or like on older motherboards, you had those long like kind of connector ribbons and
So I'm not really sure how I can like swing those around like tentacles and like grab people with them, but it's a future Starfleet technology, so I don't. Maybe
we might be witnessing the birth of the same AI that destroys sentient life on in our galaxy that's in Discovery. Like this,
I think it's the Borg. This is the origin of the Borg.
No, Brian, it looks more like the that squid probe that came back in time.
Right,
Ike and Tyler in Discovery.
Yeah, no. From now on, just everything that happens in a Star Trek episode is the origin of the Borg. That's just my new thing. So, sooner or later, I'll be right, and I'll get to rub all your noses in.
Fletcher looks like a self-centered idiot, but he's actually the Palpatine of Star Trek. I think, like that's what's happening here.
Palpatine clearly had some mad charisma skills. Let's be honest. So
it's true.
It's not a bad comparison. I will say that there was a certain. I guess in order to make Boimler and Mariner look smart, they had to come up with somebody who was dumber than them and to put them stand next to them to make them look smart. And I always feel that's a weak way to make your characters look more intelligent when you realize you made them look too weak in previous stories is, well, we just need to find somebody dumber than them and stand it next to them, and then they'll look like they're smarter. So I did find that perhaps not the most skilled storytelling thing, but on the other hand, it did tie in with their message. So I don't know.
I do see it differently on this point. I've never seen them as not smart, but I saw them as immature. Like I feel like they have the smarts, but they're just like very immature.
Okay, whatever. This guy's more immature than however you want to phrase it. He's clearly lesser than them.
And he starts off, like seeming like such a nice person. Brian, you make a good argument about like how like it's all just from him bullshitting.
Yeah. And eventually he just runs out of rope. He's hung himself and he's got nothing left. And then he's panicked.
Such a dick. He's like, oh, you're gonna help me get out of this, or I'm gonna like take you down with me. You're gonna get in trouble with me. And
well, he's like, this is not. It's always worked before. I make another charisma roll. And, I try to threaten them this time. I don't know. There's got to be a way to make this work. So.
But I love the line of dialogue where Mariner says, I would never put anyone in danger, and then Boimler like gives her that look, and he's like, well, yeah, like except maybe Boimler.
He actually does that. Like he look at this thing.
Yeah, the isolinear core monster. It's a weird design, but it's definitely intimidating with these tentacles it's swinging around, and Fletcher just keeps kind of like getting in the way of like their efforts to contain it or deal with it. Like he keeps saying like, oh, we should just lie about it, just say like a Q showed up to beat us up, and so they end up tying him up with the cables, and then Mariner and Boimler working together. I liked the dynamic between them and the rapport between them, and they're eventually able to get it to the airlock and shoot it off into space. And unfortunately, they notice that it's floating towards the scavenger ship.
Unfortunately.
Well, they're scared they're going to get in trouble. They're scared they're starting a diplomatic incident, and the Boimler has that line, "Oh, we're so getting fired for this," which was in the trailer. That was in the trailer for season 1.
That was really funny.
I suppose if there's anyone equipped to eventually deal with this thing, it has to be a bunch of salvagers, because it's just basically a pile of, self-accumulating garbage. So, it is
it's
at
like
least
their worst nightmare. It's like, we've spent all our lives like scavenging junk. Now the junk is going to scavenge us.
Well, yes, but it is at least in their ballywick. It is at least in their wheelhouse. They've got a chance. It's not like a virus or or species H8472 where they're just screwed. So there's nothing they're going to be able to do.
The L cars look so spot on. It's just slightly more futuristic. Has a few different things. Like it's just like I love like how great the attention to detail is on things like this on the show.
We get Shax's security tactical display close up a couple of times. I think it is weird that it has like modern iconography. Like they have like the modern day warning logo on there, like the triangle with the exclamation point. And
yes,
ago, we saw Shax try to like mute the audio when Mariner was playing the guitar down in their bar, and it had like the modern day mute logo of like the speaker with the line going through it. So it is
that's
weird.
Keen. I didn't catch that.
Yeah. I would just say that since each person customizes their own okudagrams a bit, that he's just old school and grew up as a kid playing with old tech, and so he uses icons that he likes and remembers. But he's Bajoran, so I got nothing.
He would be more familiar like old like Cardassian and Bajoran technology.
Yeah. If there were Bajoran icons or Cardassian icons on the ship,
I wonder if he can change the GUI like that. That would be very cool.
According to the Okuda's tech manual, you can. Yeah. In fact, there's quite a bit of customization. So when you log on as to serve your duty shift at that station, you bring up your account and your profile, which has the controls somewhat customized to your layout.
That's sick. They invented. It's crazy. It's crazy that was something that he imagined, and now it's ubiquitous in technology. Like that is basically how you log into workstations and stuff like that. It
is pretty impressive that he came up with that back in 87 or 88 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
that was a handy thing to give the actors, because they told the actors on Next Gen, they said, don't worry about having like the same button patterns. Like if LeVar turns on the warp engines this way, then Will, you don't have to turn it on the same way. Everyone just has it customized their own thing. So however you need to do, whatever you and the director need to do to get the shot, just like that's the way your character does it.
Now,
That's
that said,
genius.
I've heard that Will Wheaton and some of the others did have their own patterns that they used for repeating actions that came up a lot in the
Right,
show.
for like the individual characters, but they didn't worry about like matching each other.
Yeah.
That's
But yeah,
fantastic.
we
I
lose
didn't know
the
that.
shields, and Captain Freeman finally is going to let Shax open fire. Finally, after this entire episode of him just like begging to shoot these people.
Yeah.
And I like his like little like celebration moment where he's like pumping his fist, and I realized
I'm gonna get to kill people.
Yeah, he really does have baby hands. Like, remember in the first episode when Mariner?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm Shax. I spilled my drink on the bridge with my little baby hands. He really does have baby hands. He's so huge and barrel-chested. It's kind of a funny, cartoony look. But weapons are disabled.
Yes. Now it seems to me that if Freeman was really a good captain, then before the weapons got disabled, and more importantly, before the engines got disabled, she just would have fallen back and retreated. I mean, surely there'd be a point where you're like, if we get hit another time, we're going to lose the warp drive. And Freeman would just say, all right, take us to warp. This isn't worth it, and fly away.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was weird that the weapons went offline immediately after the shields got dropped. So I just assumed
and the engines, because she immediately orders an evacuation. So the engines, the engines have already are offline, or they just went offline. Though nobody says the engines are offline. So I would tend to assume that she watched the engines failed and just continued to sit there.
I got a solution for that. This isn't as elegant as some of the things that you've come up with tonight, Brian, but I am going to try to explain it as saying that these Drukemani have previously salvaged a California class starship, and they were actually aware of like all the weak points, and they knew exactly where to smack them with the debris. Not only knock down their shields, but also like disable their engines and weapons.
They knew exactly where to hit.
The Fletcher AI could have also been causing, and I think they said that like that backup system that he was working on was responsible for something going wrong with the shields, and they would realize it as soon as they ran. Like, so there's like a chain. It was like a chain effect of like stuff going wrong. So
if you're
and even Jack says our shields don't normally dissipate this quickly. Remember, he says something like that. So yeah,
if you are the Drukemani, the last thing you want to do is take down the Cerritos' shields, because you want them to leave and let you have all the stuff. So you don't want to hobble them unless you're planning on killing them all and salvaging their ship, which is a whole other level of evil that we didn't actually get mentioned. But maybe that's what they were really trying to do, is kill them all and take this California class. They want a California sushi roll.
With the little serious moment that they sprinkle in here. Just like remind you of like the stakes and the danger and the jeopardy. But when Dr. Tiana says, well, we have to evacuate the ship, we have to get people to the escape pods. I like that the chief medical officer, like, she's like the first thing she's concerned about is that like, we gotta evacuate. We gotta save these lives.
I guess I'm impressed that the ship has been hit so many times and so hard that the shields, weapons, and engines have all failed, but apparently there's not enough going on in sickbay for the doctor to be down there yet. No, there's still nobody hurt. Amazingly, nobody got hurt.
They only have 23 minutes, so it all has to be compressed into a very fast-paced timeline. But the Isolinear core monster, whatever. I wonder what the memory alpha page for this thing is going to call it. We'll have to investigate that. But fortunately, it saves the day by disabling the Drukemani ship, and Shax is thrilled, even though he didn't do anything. He's still happy and celebrates by making out with Dr. Tiana, which was a little weird to kiss a cat person on the mouth like that. Like it doesn't seem sanitary, but you know what? I'm not gonna kink shame. This is one for like the furry community out there.
I think Caitians brush their teeth regularly and have good dental hygiene, as unlike cats. But although I will tell you, my cat has his teeth brushed every night before bed.
Okay.
I still wouldn't kiss him on the lips, but yeah.
Is Dr. Tiana into it? Like she throws her
She
arm.
does.
Yeah, I suppose they could be an item, and they just haven't
The
mentioned
official
that.
name for the
What was it?
What was that? PJ?
I think PJ
I was going to
froze.
say the official name they have is the corrupted isolinear core.
Oh, okay. That's not as fun as what I was hoping for.
I thought you were gonna say what the couple name for Shax and Tiana would be. Would it be like
Shaxana.
Shaxana
Shaxana.
or to
Shax.
Shax?
That's
To
perfect.
Shax.
Shax.
To shack up. To shacks up.
Yeah, Pastel Pirate in the chat says, "Does her breath smell like fish?"
It depends.
Like cats. Like Brian, I know like you're a cat person. You don't kiss your cats.
I am mildly allergic to all these cats, so I keep my face well away from them if I can at all. Holly kisses them all the time, but I've never really found a reason to ask her what they smell like. So,
Even after brushing his teeth, his toothpaste smells like chicken, so he always smells like some kind of like chicken, fish, or beef or lamb. You know, like one of those things. He smells like meat.
Well, back to Ensign Fletcher. They're able to release him from being tied up in the cables, but he's still being a stupid jerk. And this is when Commander Ransom comes in with the security team. And he's like, okay, I need an explanation. What the hell is going on here? Our computer core was disabled. We were ejecting stuff from the airlock. Well, what's going on? And you think Mariner, I thought this was pretty cool. I thought this was clever. You think Mariner is just going to be like, okay, I've had enough of this Fletcher guy. I'm just going to rat him out and throw him under the bus. But instead, she gives him credit for saving the ship. And there's like a big celebration to promote and transfer him to the USS Titan. We can talk about the Titan in a moment. And they have a big party for him.
which is, I have to admit, a classic Mariner move, by the way. I was like, that is totally, once I seen how it all played out, absolutely a Mariner strategy.
That's like, oh, that's so Mariner. That's classic Mariner.
Even up to and including the part where I don't... Even up to and including the part where I don't think it was terribly ethical, but she did it anyway.
Well, he didn't last 6 daes on the Titan, so that shows how good they are.
Well, my worry is, did he get somebody killed on the Titan?
Notice that they also, like when Mariner got promoted and they skip over the junior grade lieutenant, they give Fletcher a gold pip. He just goes straight to a senior lieutenant.
Do they have any black pip crew members on the ship?
They do.
Okay.
Lieutenant Commander Billups, the chief engineer, has the 2 gold, 1 black.
Okay, all right. So I was just wondering if it was.
They can do it. They can show it.
Okay, I was beginning to wonder if it was like the 4-finger thing in animation where you drop a finger to make it easier to draw or something.
Yeah, and I think Shax is a lieutenant commander too. Although there's been some inconsistency with his rank. Like sometimes he's a lieutenant, sometimes he's a lieutenant commander.
Eventually, he'll end up being the other petty officer in.
Oh, look.
Yeah, he can be like the O'Brien of lower decks, and his rank is just all over the place. What is it that Mariner says? Keep your friends close and your enemies far the hell away, or something like that.
Yeah.
But then Boimler's like, oh, well, maybe this is what Fletcher needed to get his act together. Maybe he'll really reach his potential and be like a good officer. But nope, right. 6 days later, and he's calling them saying like, I just got fired for putting trash in the warp core.
It's not a artificial quantum singularity. How do you make that mistake? Did he just watch Back to the Future and figure that it was like a Mr. Fusion or something? That would be the impulse core anyway. But
that's hilarious.
But I did like their, oh no, Q, sorry, can't talk.
Yeah, where they're spraying some aerosol spray on there, saying that it's they're going. I think we're going through like a he says you must be going through a temporal anomaly, and then Mariner starts throwing the pad that they're talking on up in the air, like, oh, there's a Q doing crazy Q stuff, and they hang up on him. So now he is Earth's problem.
Yeah.
And that's. I hope this is the end of Ensign Fletcher. I don't care for this character and don't want to see him come back.
I felt like that way before this discussion, but now I'm kind of with PJ. I think he's actually really a great foil for these characters. I think
I'm an asshole. So if I was in charge of season 2, I would have him come back, but it would reveal that he had suffered a bunch of brain damage and he never got the proper treatment, and now he's gone all badgy and is because he never got the treatment and it's kind of their fault. But that's kind of me being mean. I don't know if I should actually be in charge of the show. I think I'm a poor choice for that.
PJ, Fletcher, would you like to see this character return?
I think in season 2 they should have Fletcher and Badgie come back and team up together to take over the Cerritos.
Well, that was like a nightmare. Let's talk about the Badgie story. The story with Tendi and Rutherford, and how they're having a conversation about scavenging and how
that hamburger looks so good.
How they're gonna have to go on a spacewalk and. Yeah, they're eating he's eating a hamburger and she's eating a taco salad. But she is concerned that about the spacewalk because she didn't take that part of the her test at the academy, and somehow like the professor gave her a B and passed her, so she just never said anything, and she's scared of going into space.
I have to wonder if that's some sort of Orion pheromone grade adjustment that she might not even be consciously aware of that she did.
I would like them to address like the Orion pheromone situation with her, because she does not seem to have the same effect on the opposite sex that we saw the Orions and Enterprise have.
Yeah, is it like in the FASA role-playing game where only some female Orions have the ability, or is it like they have some sort of all the crew members are taking that drug that didn't Phlox come up with a drug?
Oh, interesting.
Didn't he? Or am I misremembering? So, or is she taking a drug that just reduces the pheromone output? I mean,
that's what I am thinking, but I'd like them to clarify on screen.
That would certainly be the most elegant solution, as if she was taking the drug.
I have a feeling they'll switch it on at some point. It's going to be something like that, and they'll use it as a gag to switch it on at some point where it has this like overt effect on the crew,
I want to see that. I think that'd be funny if they need Tendi to go like seduce somebody to like figure something out, and then and she's kind of like reluctant to do it, but then like whenever she like turns the pheromones on, just like everyone just goes like gaga over her.
See, I don't know if I want please go have sex with the aliens so we can get out of this plot line. I never liked
not
that,
necessarily that far, but just like use your influence.
See, what I think would be fun is if somehow they get trapped, a whole bunch of them, and she can't get her drug that she takes every day anymore. And so it wears off, and suddenly she's affecting everybody, like the whole ship or something, and because she can't get the drug anymore. And so it's not that she's trying to do this, but it's causing all this chaos, and all these guys are fighting over her, and you could have a lot of fun with that without, I don't think, I think that would be less irksome than the go seduce that guy for us routine. But
that'd be fun. I'd be down to see that.
Yeah,
but instead, what we get in this episode is her and Rutherford on the holodeck to do a tutorial on spacewalking, and Rutherford introduces her to the AI that he made, Badgie, which
this is my Badgie right here.
Yours doesn't look as cartoony as the one that you have on screen.
Yeah, it's also...
Hi, Fathery. How's it going today?
Boy, put your badge away. That is right.
Yeah, we don't need any more stinking badges.
Yes, well done. This is clearly based on the paperclip from Microsoft back in the late 90s. That I actually went and looked at the Wikipedia page. I hear everyone call that thing Clippy, that little cartoon paperclip. Yeah. So actually, official name was Clip It.
Oh,
often referred to as Clippy. And did you know that the guy who designed it for Microsoft did it on a Mac?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's the best.
It would figure that the spawn of Satan would come from a Mac. So,
the thing shows up and it's like, "Hi, do you want me to teach you a lesson?" It's already kind of freaky at that point.
There's
Oh,
very
they
good,
have like the loading bar.
Yeah.
yeah.
You remember in season 1 of Next Gen how the computer would take time to do things, and it would say like that was going to take 30 minutes or that's going to take 5 hours, and then later on, because our computers got faster, we just stopped seeing that ever happen in Star Trek.
Oh, that's really good. That's a great call out. It's
Yeah.
true.
So
I
here we
like
have something.
The TOS computer would handle it, where it would just be like working, and then it's
Chunka,
like,
chunka, 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 chunka.
Pastel Pirate told me to never do that impression again.
This episode confirms the romantic feelings between these two characters. I think it's fair to say it's mutual, but Rutherford eventually will confess that he's into Tendi. Before, it was always a little ambiguous if they were just friends or if there was something more there. I kind of always thought there was something more there, but
I did love the magnetic boot gag. That is exactly the sort of shenanigans I'd get up to with the characters with unresolved sexual tension in my role playing games. Is your boots stick together? That was fun.
Cutesy, fun stuff.
Yeah.
Before the chaos ensues.
Though the continuity horror within me also had a problem in that wouldn't they be gravity boots and not magnetic boots?
Well, they use the term magnetic boots in Star Trek 6, don't they?
It's gravity boots in Star Trek 6.
Oh, okay.
We're looking for 2 pairs of gravity boots, as Valeris says.
But when they're on the Klingon tribunal, I think one of the Klingons has magnetic boots. I could be wrong.
I think gravity boots is just short for anti-grav boots, is what they're actually referred to as, right?
Yep. I think it's when Colonel Worf says, like, if there is no gravity, how could these men be walking?
Right.
And then the one-armed guy is like, they were using magnetic boots. I think. I could be wrong.
Magnetic boots, that's what he says. You're right.
So, and I mean, I always thought gravity boots sound so much more sophisticated because magnetic boots will only attach to metal, whereas gravity boots would presumably attach to any surface.
Yeah. And
they would create an artificial gravity. It's true.
If you're away from I
take that back about anti.
The electromagnetosphere of like a planet with like the North Pole and the South Pole, how does magnetism work in these artificial gravity environments?
Oh, well, magnetism would work just fine in deep space, but only against other ferrous materials that can be magnetized. So, and whereas gravity boots would work on anything, like a planet made of nothing but dirt with no ore or metal, and it would still work with gravity boots. But so
they could be all of the above. They could have magnetic and anti-gravity features to enhance the so that they could they can like kind of propel themselves using the magnetic feature to to the ground or whatever.
And maybe magnet is just like an outdated term that they still use.
Yeah. Or perhaps these suits only, because they're only meant for climbing around on ships, they are only magnetic. You're not going to find a plastic starship. So, it's just a simpler tech for less complicated situations.
It's like if you end a phone call, people still saying hang up, even though we don't hang phones up on the wall anymore.
This is true.
And apparently Picard still says hang up in the year 2399. So,
true.
Maybe they used to use magnetic boots, but now they use gravity boots.
What's that alloy that most ship hulls are made of in this time period? It's
tritanium and duranium.
Duranium.
So I think duranium is the better armor, but tritanium seems to be the more structural element. So
it'd be neat to find out that there's other kinds of magnetism, not just ferrous, there is a separate kind of magnetism for that alloy, that you can create a magnetism just for that as well.
I don't know you would probably call it something different than magnetism if it was some new force among the what is it, the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. So, but anyway, we're getting deep dive boring.
Yeah, that's too much gravity versus magnetic boot technology. Rutherford is frustrated that Badgie's not working. He's not impressing Tendi like he wanted, so he's kicking this thing around to get it to load the cargo part of the program, and you have all that cargo floating out so they can simulate the spacewalk, and you get like this ominous push in on Badgie. Of course, keeping in tradition with Berman era Star Trek, there's a malfunction in the computer, and the holodeck goes crazy, and now they are in mortal danger from Badgie, the psychopath cartoon character.
And I did feel like, it's a cartoon comedy series. There has to be an obligatory holodeck malfunction story. That's just, it's just a matter of when are we pulling the trigger on that. So I was kind of glad to get that out of the way. So in season 1.
It was one of the things they promised before the show came out.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Some holodeck shenanigans. I think this is what a lot of people were. PJ, I think you included. You had mentioned this. This is kind of like what you might have been expecting from Lower Decks, about it being like a little bit more adult comedy. With, I mean, like Badgie is like the violence that we get from him. It definitely does come off as pretty adult. I love this shot of
look at the shot. It's great.
Of the reflection in Tendi's space helmet. It was like so horrific. What's going on of Badgie assaulting Rutherford and trying to like eat a hole in his environmental suit.
Now that I've thought about it, it just occurred to me they should have had this whole plot line end with them like, okay, well, let's go get some lunch or something, whatever. And they decide they both take off their comm badges and leave them behind because they just don't want to be reminded of that at all. And so they, there's kind of this vague little phobia or distaste about anything that little Starfleet Delta Cochrane or Cochrane Delta emblem after that. I think that could have been entertaining to have that as a beat.
Brian, we have a comment directed at you from Alexandra. She's saying that she hasn't fangirled over you since Discovery Season 2. Today he's on fire. Please send him my regards.
Well, thank you very much.
Somebody enjoyed that gravity boot conversation.
Okay, yeah.
I totally forgot about the magnetic forces and physics when I was like trying to figure it out. And Brian was like, wait a second, there's physics. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right.
Magnetism is a real thing.
Yeah, it's true.
There's some real rules to it.
I was deep in my headcanon. Sorry, Brian. It's like, let's just change the laws of physics. It's easy as snapping your fingers, right?
You just do it.
You just do it.
Well, somehow with like this holodeck malfunction, it's still pretty easy to just snap your fingers and change the holodeck program. And they escape to the Bajoran market, which I guess like if you're looking for like a safe place to go, that's probably I
love this whole thing, like being on Bajor. Like it was, I thought it was clever in the sense that they introduced a brand new location, a familiar location. We got to go to that location, and see a new angle of it, so to speak, but through the holodeck. Like, didn't actually go to Bajor, but we still felt like we were on Bajor, which is really cool.
And that's what I mentioned earlier with like using the pre-established universe, using the continuity, using things that are already there in canon. What did y'all think of the insane cartoon violence of Badgie ripping off a dude's head and murdering him?
I mean, it's a fake person, so on some level it doesn't really matter. But I kind of think I would have made the call that when he rips them apart, there's like weird sparky holodeck image, broken holodeck images in there instead of blood gushing everywhere. But it's each their own. It's striking, that's for sure.
It wouldn't work for me if they like unleashed this monstrosity onto like real people, but because they are just basically NPCs in a video game, it's not as bad. But like you still have like the striking effect from the visuals of it.
Yeah. I did question of all the different malfunctions that you could have Badgie undergo, all the different weird things he could do, is sociopathic killer the most interesting of what they could have picked.
Was it? I don't know if it was PJ or who said it, but it was like the infection was from it's the Fletcher infected Badgie, and that's why it's like this. It's like, this is like more of the
a homicidal maniac.
No, but like someone with that much ego and like, like someone who puts all their points in charisma, like to use that that same phrase. Like you could see that like they're probably like, what was that American Psycho? Like, they're on the outside, they're like super like, like charming and composed and whatever, but then on the inside they're like a psycho killer. And I think that's
I didn't say anything about Fletcher.
Okay, then
but I do think part of why Badgie goes crazy is because of the situation the captain is in and the ship getting bumped, because of course like something goes wrong with the holodeck when they're in a situation where the ship's either getting hit or there's some kind of malfunction.
So, and one could argue that indirectly it is Fletcher's tampering that indirectly leads to Badgie nearly killing them.
Back to
the
Fletcher.
other thing is that
It's Fletcher.
You also have the program was incomplete. Rutherford probably shouldn't have been using it, but he was so eager to impress Tendi, and when he had an opportunity to show her this program, he just
there's also a really dark element to this, because Badgie is like his son that he created. He abuses his son. His son goes crazy because of it, and then tries to kill his father. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really messed up if you think about it.
That is pretty messed up.
The dialogue in this part where Badgie says, "Fun fact, I'm gonna rip your eyes out," and then Tendi says, "That fact isn't fun," and she's walking away.
Badgie is Mike McMahon's creation. He drew it on there was like a thing that where he says he drew it on like a piece of paper, and he was like, "This is Badgie" or something. So that is pretty funny that came from the mind of Mike McMahon.
But yeah, they run away from Badgie, and they notice that he starts getting tired chasing them up this insane staircase going up to like a Victorian temple. Tendi is so sweet that she starts to feel sorry for him, and she starts like cheering for him, like, "Come on, Badgie, you can do it."
Yeah, which does go back to the theme of this episode, but I'll wait till we're done talking about this plot point before I get into that.
Well, let's wrap up Badgie so we can get into that. Rutherford says, "Oh, he's vulnerable. He's affected by physical things. Maybe we can freeze him." And he runs Environment 83 and turns it to like the holodeck into a frozen tundra, and eventually confronts Badgie, and they have a pretty cool, well-animated, action-y combat fight. I was happy to see Rutherford using the double fist punch. Gore here, because it is a holodeck, it is fake, so it kind of diminishes the savage brutalness of it all. But
Janeway does this on the on that alien planet where he like traps them in the ice place to remember. I forget what the episode that was.
In the Gornags.
Nice.
But watching this did make me wish that there was like a little bit more serious Star Trek show that was animated, because they were able to do some really neat visuals with like the holodeck kind of malfunctioning, like during the storm when like there'd be like lightning and light up the sky, and you could see like the holodeck grid through like little holes and gaps in it. It looked really cool, and it made it all like it dialed up the intensity of all of it, where like reality itself looks like it's unraveling. Yeah, eventually Badgie does freeze, and in his weakened state, Rutherford is able to kill him.
His neck.
Which, I mean, it's not just that Badgie has a spine, but Rutherford knows Badgie has a spine, which means that Rutherford designed Badgie to have a neck that could be broken. This is part of his programming. He went into the detail of making sure that Badgie had a spine that he could. I mean, I doubt he was planning on breaking it, but the point is, that was some weird programming there.
Why does Badgie say diplomatic immunity right before is that like in 3?
I think it is. I think it's Lethal Weapon. 3.
2. Lethal Weapon 2.
Lethal Weapon 2. That's a Lethal Weapon 2 reference.
It would have been funnier if Rutherford responded to "just been revoked."
Anyways, conveniently at the same time, for dramatic purposes, the engineer Billups is able to repair the computer system, and the holodeck is back to normal.
So if they just kept running for another 30 seconds, they wouldn't have had to have the fight. I I have to admit, and I totally understand why Rutherford didn't think of this. When you are panicked and in fear for your life, your brain turns to pudding. And so I get why he didn't think of this, but it occurs to me with 2020 hindsight and the calm rationality of watching it on television. If you had called up some sort of place filled with Klingons, then the Klingons would have seen this crazed Starfleet badge running around and have attacked it. And well, they might not have actually been able to defeat it. It sure would have slowed it down a bunch if they could have. Now, of course, they're wearing Starfleet uniforms, so you'd have to be careful how you engineer this. But yeah, I think if they'd done it right, there might have been some mileage to be gained there.
That's when Badgie counteracts with like a Neo move, and he's able to control the environment itself and freezes them or something like that.
Well, I mean, he's clearly unable to control the holodeck. Otherwise, he would have caught them pretty quickly.
In the chat, Pastel Pirate asks if Moriarty could control the holodeck. Why can't Badgie?
Oh, there you go.
Well, I don't know if Badgie is sapient. Badgie's just a stupid program that happens to have no safety protocols.
An incomplete stupid program.
Right.
Yeah,
whereas
in
Moriarty
elementary,
was.
Yeah, in
Moriarty
elementary
was
Dear
actively-
Data, the whole point was to make
Yeah.
him smarter than Data, and the computer accidentally makes Moriarty sentient. Which is there's all kinds of problems with that anyway, like why the computer would allow a holodeck program to eventually control the holodeck is weird, but it's just
It was following instructions. That was the only way it could threaten Data.
So is Badgie going to come back? Because we end on that ominous note of him saying, "I'm always here," in like the mean voice.
he could possibly come back next season, and Robert Picardo's doctor will be a guest star, and he'll steal the doctor's mobile emitter and leave the holodeck, and they gotta go fight him outside.
I want to see Picard. I want to see Doc Holodeck and Badgie get into a fight. That would be amazing.
I like that Doc Holodeck.
Doc Holodeck.
Well, I can't call him the Doctor because that's already taken by my biggest sci-fi hero. So, but if I could take a moment to talk about how all three of these stories, when I rewatched it, I realized they're all to some degree or another dealing with this theme of actually forgiveness, and this idea, which is kind of in the title too, about how many chances do you give somebody to redeem themselves? And when I realized that is a fundamental question, especially for a liberal Star Trek outlook, which is much more about empathy and that everybody can be fixed and everyone can become healthy if they get the right environment and the right help. And so, that is a fundamental question to start in Star Trek and to people who are trying to be empathic to those around them who are causing them trouble, is how many chances do you give somebody? We see it with the Captain Freeman. How many chances is she going to give these garbage scavengers before she just orders the security chief to open fire on them? How many, and we see it with Fletcher. How many chances are they going to give Fletcher as he keeps screwing up again and again and again? And we see two different versions. The garbage men are completely unrepentant, but there's diplomatic incidents and high stakes politics going on there apparently. And then we have Fletcher, who is very repentant, but it turns out he's not being honest about it. But then he says he is being honest about it. And you know how many, are you just going to assume that since he lied to you once, he's always lying to you? And even Boimler is willing, well, maybe he'll do better on the Titan. Maybe he'll become a better person there, and so, Boimler's, even he's trying to forgive him there at the end. And even with Badgie, there's this question of Badgie's like, please don't kill me and whatnot. And Rutherford has to put him down, even though it's his own creation and his own son or whatever, and he created him, and he's not able to forgive. He's not able to, or at least not able to give him another chance, at least not consciously. He ends up kind of getting another chance when the computer reboots, but not through any choice by the characters. So that is actually a big question and a tricky question for Star Trek, a tricky question that Picard and Kirk and Sisko would probably all have different lines for how many times do you forgive and how many chances.
Enough. of you.
Yeah. There's an example of Kirk right up until the very end. He's like, "Give me your hand." He's trying to make this work.
That's a son of a bitch that murdered his son. Spoilers for Star Trek 3.
And one could be cynical and say he if he can get on the captain's good side, then maybe they can all go up to the Klingon ship and get out of here, and everyone lives without fighting and more bloodshed. But I think Kirk honestly does want to try to save him and does want to salvage the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I don't know if the show has any particularly strong or definitive answers to that question, but they certainly play around with it. And you can't say that is an important Star Trek question. That is a question that maybe, they don't explicitly said it is hiding in the shadows of every single time Starfleet tries to find a peaceful solution to a potentially violent situation.
I don't know if Alexandra's still in the audience, but I'm fangirling at that whole end statement that you said, and it's actually made me lift this episode even higher in my esteem than it was previously.
No, I love looking at it with like that framing. Brian, that had not occurred to me either. Yeah. But
it wasn't until I saw that the second. To be fair, it wasn't until I saw it the second time that it clicked. So
very nice.
No, I like it. I think that's a really good note to end discussing the episode on. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the Gorn eggs before we sign off. And these are all of the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections that I noticed in the episode. As always, if I miss any and you think you caught something, be sure to let me know, and I'll give you credit for it in the future. But I'll just start with like the very beginning and work my way through the episode. When we
got
open
a
on
keen green eye there for those Gorn eggs.
When we open on the lower deckers making their warp noise effect, they of course mention the Enterprise D from Star Trek: The Next Generation and the Voyager from Star Trek Voyager. In the debris field, we see the remains of an Antares type starship. Or it was also the robot ship in Trials and Tribulations is where it was first introduced. This is actually the second Federation Starfleet ship ever designed. The original series has had the Constitution, unless you count like the shuttlecraft as its own design. But as far as like an entire ship, this is like the second one ever designed.
Fascinating. It's so different from the saucer section secondary hull concept. I like it.
Yeah, and they of course throw it back into TOS Remastered because Mike Okuda was a big fan of it, and we got to see it in Charlie X actually be the Antares, which I guess is why we call it an Antares type ship. The registry number on it, though, NCC 502, if you go back and watch the episode, they actually throw the whole of two different NCC 502 ships into the Cerritos. So I really wish they had given one of them a different registry number. So it's kind of a goof there. Because there is more than one of these in that debris field, apparently.
Huh. Yeah.
Up next, the captain of the Drukemani ship, as we mentioned, was voiced by Star Trek veteran actor J.G. Hertzler. And it kind of looks like him, too. Even with like the eye patch, kind of like one-eyed Martok. But yeah,
Did you recognize his voice right away?
Yes, I wasn't 100% sure.
I wasn't sure either.
I think it is him.
I'm familiar.
He's most famous for Martok on Deep Space Nine, but he also appeared on Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Enterprise. When they're hanging out in the mess hall near the beginning of the episode, Fletcher mentions that story that Brian brought up about Nausicaans trying to eat Boimler's heart, and that is clearly a callback to the time a young Ensign Picard was stabbed in the heart by a Nausicaan. When they're discussing what might be in this old cargo, Rutherford suggests that it might be frozen princesses. So I think this was a reference to the Star Trek Enterprise episode Precious Cargo, in which Trip Tucker had an adventure with a princess from Krios Prime.
And I want to say, they never do tell us what's in the cargo. We never find out. What the hell?
Tendi thought it might have been the old school clamshell communicators. So I guess that would be considered like a cool vintage piece of technology. The original series communicator. Yeah, like the flip phone design. Now, when they're talking about the holodeck, Rutherford goes through like this long list of characters that have appeared on the holodeck, including Sherlock Holmes, Sigmund Freud, Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, and Da Vinci, and Socrates. But what was interesting is he also mentions Cyrano de Bergerac and Robin Hood, and those weren't actually on the holodeck. Barclay was playing Cyrano in a play in the Nth Degree, and Picard was Robin Hood because of Q created like a Robin Hood adventure for him. So those weren't actually on the holodeck, but everything else was.
You should have mentioned Scrooge instead of Robin Hood.
Mariner talks about seeing the Zebulon sisters do the choo-choo dance at Deep Space 3. Deep Space 3 was mentioned in the episode Interface in season 7 of Next Generation, the one where like Geordi's mom dies. And
that's right.
The news is broke to Picard from an admiral at Deep Space 3. Also, the Zebulon sisters, it kind of reminds me of the Delaney sisters from Star Trek Voyager, like this group of sisters that are talked about but not seen until like the one time we do see them in Voyager. The holodeck going haywire and the safety protocols going offline has happened too many times to count in Berman era Star Trek, so I'm not going to bother with that. But let's just say it happened in TNG, DS9, and Voyager. The Bajoran marketplace, of course, allowed us to return to planet Bajor, which was frequently visited in Deep Space Nine. On the bridge of the Cerritos, during kind of the tractor beam combat sequence, Captain Freeman orders evasive pattern Sulu. We know there's been multiple Sulus that have served in Starfleet, but I'd like to believe that this is Hikaru Sulu, captain of the Excelsior. When they are in Environment 83 and kind of like a frozen, super cold environment on the holodeck. We've seen that created on holodecks before in Star Trek. In the animated series episode, The Practical Joker, in their rec room, they're trapped in a freezing cold environment like that, full of snow and ice. And also in the Star Trek Voyager episode Displaced in season 3 of Star Trek Voyager.
And The Big Goodbye, there's a scene where they accidentally get transported to a cold
yeah, they like snap into it for a few seconds. I forgot about that one.
There's the one where Wesley's throwing snowballs at the captain, which has trees, so it's not quite the same sort of environment as I recall.
When Fletcher says, let's lie and say that a Q showed up, obviously referencing Q, who, if you watch the Star Trek Day panels from Tuesday that I'll be talking about, people watching this live, I'll be talking about that tomorrow live on YouTube at 4:00 Central. But there is some talk about Q possibly returning to Star Trek. But if you don't want to know the details on that, I won't spoil it here. And then, of course, the ship that Fletcher is assigned to, the USS Titan. The Titan was mentioned in Star Trek Nemesis. It is the ship at this time would be commanded by Captain Riker. We've never seen it on screen. There is an official design for the USS Titan that I really love. I like the Luna class design. And I hope that we see it later in the season of Lower Decks. We know that they are going to do some Romulan stuff, maybe like visit the neutral zone in a future episode. So I hope, since Star Trek Nemesis ended with Riker saying he's going to take the Titan into Romulan space to go deal with them and sort out some diplomacy there, I'm hoping that since this is only a year after Star Trek Nemesis, that's when we run into the USS Titan. And I want the ship to look like this.
Between episode 8 and 10, it's going to happen. It's going to happen by the end of the season. There's got to be Riker and Troy and the Titan and that design as well.
Yeah. Well, I think we can safely say the Titan will look like that because these art designers are such fanboys and fangirls, they will want to make sure they get the authentic design for the Titan when it shows.
Yeah,
if and when it
I would
shows.
love to canonify this design. I could also see them like thrown in a Galaxy class, just because Mike McMahon is such a TNG nerd that he might want to have like Riker on a Galaxy class. But no, like let them upgrade to the Luna class. And then the last Gorn egg I found, Mariner mentions that she's going to take the captain's yacht out for a spin. The captain's yacht was seen on screen in Star Trek Insurrection. The Enterprise E had a captain's yacht attached to it.
The D also had one.
Yeah, it's actually seen in lots of episodes, but we don't see it we only see it in action in Insurrection. Yes. But because it's sticking out of the bottom of the saucer all the time, we see it in lots of episodes. Did you also notice there was a tribble on the keychain?
Oh yeah, I should mention that.
But there's the captain's yacht on the D.
Yep.
But again, those are all the Gorn eggs I found. If I missed any, point them out to me and let me know.
Sounds like you got them all. It's like they're like Pokemon.
Like Pokemon, got to catch them all. Well, thank you everyone who checked us out live, and thank you everyone who's listening to us later. As always, we do appreciate it. We will be back next week at 7:30 Central to discuss Star Trek Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 7. I believe it's called Much Ado About Boimler. So we'll see what that's about then.
Presumably a romantic comedy, given the title, but
like I said,
they have a Benedict Beatrice vibe. Now that I think of it, a la
Kenneth Branagh. Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to drag Dave back.
I know. Yeah, we need Dave to talk about the Shakespeare. But you can also catch me and Brian, and I believe Starfleet Boy is also going to be joining us tomorrow, Saturday, September 12th. We will be unpacking the Star Trek Day panels from earlier this week, talking about those, and also the Star Trek Discovery Season 3 trailer that we just got a few days ago. And in addition to that, everyone should stick around who's watching us live. Go hop on over to Starfleet Boys YouTube channel, because in a few minutes we will be appearing on Starfleet Boy After Dark. So if you want to hang out with us over there, we look forward to seeing you. And
since I am under the weather, it's going to be special After Dark where Father Yu is going to make it show.
Oh dear. PJ, you should come help me with that.
Yes.
No, maybe.
You can come too, Brian.
No, I've got to get this Octavia Butler book done for a book club tomorrow. So,
we got more compliments in the chat there. So cheers, thank you.
Well, cool.
So I'll go ahead and sign us off. But until next time, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek, and follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.